Hello and welcome to Millennium News Hour. I am Tanzima Naurin. In today's bulletin, we will present important news from across the nation and the world. Let's begin with the headlines of the day. McCarthy nears victory for Speaker after grueling fight. Jen Shah of Real Housewives gets 6.5-year prison term. Cubans crossing into US stunned to hear of new asylum limits. Delta says free Wi-Fi coming to many US flights next month. Multiple wounded in Florida shooting near rap video set. Iowa woman believed to be oldest person in US dies at 115. Mexico nabs son of drug lord El Chapo before Biden visit. Hawaii's Kilauea volcano erupts again, summit crater glows. Prince Harry's book exposes grief, war, drugs, family rifts. China seeks to minimize COVID-19 risk during travel rush. India to host virtual summit of over 120 developing nations. Japan, US to hold security talks before Kishida meets Biden. Australian boy, 10 years old, remains in coma after helicopter crash. US to send $3.75 billion in military aid to Ukraine, its neighbors. Kremlin ordered truce is uncertain amid mutual mistrust. Death toll in Somalia twin bombings rises to at least 35. Building collapse in northern Iraqi city kills 3, injures 9. Swiatek whips as Poland trails US, Italy leads Greece 2-0. Emma Raducanu injures ankle ahead of Australian Open. And Bill's Hamlin breathing on his own, joins team via video. Now news in detail. House Republicans dove in Friday for a fourth day of voting to try electing Republican Kevin McCarthy as their speaker. Contours of a deal with conservative holdouts blocking his rise emerged after the grueling days and 11 failed votes in a political spectacle unseen in a century. The standoff has left Republicans in disarray and exposed anew the fragility of American democracy. The House opened at noontime against the backdrop of another historic scene, the second anniversary of the January 6, 2021 attack on the Capitol. The violent assault was a once unimaginable scene of chaos that shook the country when a mob of then-President Donald Trump's supporters tried to stop Congress from certifying the Republicans' 2020 election defeat to Democrat Joe Biden. Arriving at the Capitol Friday morning, an upbeat McCarthy said to reporters, We are going to make progress. We are going to shock you. But there is no deal yet, he told colleagues on a private morning call, according to a Republican familiar with the call and granted anonymity to discuss it. Voting resumed after Republican Representative Mike Garcia nominated McCarthy for a 12th time, also thanking the U.S. Capitol Police, who were given a standing ovation for protecting lawmakers and the legislative seat of democracy on January 6. But the Speaker's outcome was not expected to immediately change as private negotiations with holdouts continued. No final agreement was likely by the end of the day. The chamber unable swear in members and begin its 2023-24 session. McCarthy told lawmakers there were no plans to adjourn for the weekend, another Republican said, but it might be difficult to keep them in town. A judge sentenced a member of the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City to 6.5 years in prison on Friday for defrauding thousands of people nationwide in a telemarketing scam, many of them vulnerable or older. U.S. District Judge Sidney H. Stein announced the sentence for Jennifer Shah after the sobbed while apologizing for the fraud. Stein presided over her guilty plea in July to a conspiracy charge for participating in a massive fraud for nearly a decade. At the start of Shah's sentencing hearing, Stein cautioned a packed Manhattan courtroom that he was not sentencing the person people see on television. Stein said that person is simply a character, it's acting. He said the Housewives program involves role-playing. It's a heavily scripted operation. When Shah, who is 49-year-old, had a chance to speak, she too said she is not the person she is on the show. Reality TV has nothing to do with reality, she said. I am deeply sorry for what I have done. She pledged to pay $6.5 million in restitution and forfeiture when she gets out of prison, and she apologized to everyone cheated by the fraud. During the hearing, defense lawyer Priya Chaudhary said her client has undergone a dramatic transformation in recent months. Migrants who entered the U.S. illegally under moonlit skies and waist-deep cold water Friday were devastated to learn they may be sent back to Mexico under expanded limits on the pursuit of asylum. About 200 migrants who walked in the dark for about an hour to surrender to Border Patrol agents in Yuma, Arizona, included many Cubans who were stunned to hear that a ban on asylum that previously fell largely on other nationalities now applies just as much to them. Several were political dissidents of the Cuban government who were driven to leave by long-standing fears of incarceration and persecution and a new sense of economic desperation. President Joe Biden announced Thursday that Cubans, Nicaraguans, Haitians, and Venezuelans will be expelled to Mexico if they enter the U.S. illegally, effective immediately. At the same time, he offered humanitarian parole for up to 30,000 people a month from those 4 countries if they apply online, pay for their airfare, and find a financial sponsor. Delta Airlines will provide free Wi-Fi service on most of its US flights starting in February, CEO Ed Bastian announced Thursday at the CES Technology Trade Show. Bastian said by the end of the year, the airline will outfit more than 700 planes with high-speed, satellite-based broadband service from T-Mobile. It plans to expand free Wi-Fi to international and Delta connection flights by the end of 2024. The service will use equipment from Viasat, a US-based satellite broadband provider. It's always struck me that when we fly to connect, Bastian told the Associated Press in the interview. But when we are in the sky, we disconnect. Many airlines are upgrading internet access on their planes so passengers can stay connected or stream entertainment on their electronic devices, but they usually have to pay for it. New York-based JetBlue Airways already provides free Wi-Fi service to passengers, but Delta's announcement puts it ahead of its largest rivals, American, United, and Southwest. Multiple people were wounded in a shooting after an altercation outside a restaurant in South Florida, which witnesses said happened during the making of a rap video. Several witnesses told reporters that the video involved 38-year-old rapper French Montana and that he was not wanted. His publicist did not respond to emails seeking comment, and police did not confirm he was present. It wasn't immediately clear how many people were hit by gunfire about 8 p.m. Thursday, but the Miami Herald cited a law enforcement source saying as many as 10 people were wounded in the shooting outside the Leaking, a soul food restaurant in a Miami Gardens strip mall. Investigators were looking into reports that a music video was being shot at the restaurant. Miami Gardens Police Chief Delma Noel Pratt said, "We believe it's an isolated incident," Noel Pratt said. Miami Gardens Police spokesperson Diana George told reporters that she could not confirm reports that as many as 10 people had been wounded, saying right now it is just multiple victims that were injured. She said the condition of those hurt was unknown, but there were not any fatalities. An Iowa woman who was believed to be the oldest living person in the US has died at the age of 115. Bessie Lorena Hendricks of Lake City died Tuesday at the Shady Oaks Care Center, according to Lamp and Power's funeral home in Lake City. Hendricks celebrated her 115th birthday at the home on November 7 and was listed last year by the Los Angeles-based Gerontology Research Group as the country's oldest living person until her death. Born in 1907 in west central Iowa's Calhoun County, Hendricks was alive to witness news of the sinking of the Titanic, World War I and II, the Great Depression, and both the Spanish flu and COVID-19 pandemics. She was a teacher in a one-room schoolhouse there and the mother of 5 children, according to the Des Moines Register. She is survived by 3 of her children. A funeral service for Hendricks will be held at Lamp and Power's funeral home on Saturday. The Gerontology Research Group reports that Hendricks' death leaves 114-year-old A.D. Ceccarelli of California as the country's oldest living person. Mexican security forces captured Ovidio Guzman, an alleged drug trafficker wanted by the United States and one of the sons of former Sinaloa cartel boss Joaquin El Chapo Guzman, in a pre-dawn operation Thursday that set off gunfights and roadblocks across the western state's capital. Defense Secretary Luis Crescencio Sandoval said Army and National Guard personnel had captured a son of El Chapo. Sandoval identified him only as Ovidio, in keeping with government policy. Ovidio Guzman, nicknamed the Mouse, had not been one of El Chapo's better-known sons until an aborted operation to capture him 3 years ago. That attempt similarly set off violence in Culiacan that ultimately led President Andres Manuel Lopez Obrador to order the military to let him go. Thursday's high-profile capture comes just days before Lopez Obrador will host US President Joe Biden for bilateral talks, followed by their North American Leaders Summit with Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. Drug trafficking, along with immigration, is expected to be a top talking point. Hawaii's Kilauea began erupting inside its summit crater Thursday, the U.S. Geological Survey said, less than 1 month after the volcano and its larger neighbor Mauna Loa stopped releasing lava. The Hawaiian Volcano Observatory detected a glow in webcam images indicating Kilauea had begun erupting inside Halemaumau crater at the volcano's summit caldera, the agency said. Kilauea summit is inside Hawaii Volcanoes National Park and away from residential communities. Earlier Thursday, the U.S. Geological Survey raised the alert level for Kilauea due to signs that magma was moving below the summit's surface, an indication that the volcano might erupt. Kilauea is one of the world's most active volcanoes. It last erupted for 16 months starting in September 2021, for about 2 weeks starting November 27. Hawaii had 2 volcanoes spewing lava side by side when Mauna Loa erupted for the first time in 38 years. Both volcanoes stopped erupting at about the same time. Now it's time for global updates. Bereaved boy, troubled teen, wartime soldier, Unhappy royal, many facets of Prince Harry are revealed in his explosive memoir, often in eyebrow-raising detail. From accounts of cocaine use and losing his virginity to raw family rifts, Spear exposes deeply personal details about Harry and the wider royal family. The Associated Press purchased a copy of the Spanish-language edition of the book ahead of its publication around the world on Tuesday. Its revelations have electrified the British media, but have been met with silence from Buckingham Palace. The book opens with a quote from American writer William Faulkner: "The past is never dead. It's not even past." Harry's story is dominated by his rivalry with elder brother Prince William and the death of the boy's mother, Princess Diana, in 1997. The opening chapter recounts how his father, Prince Charles, now King Charles III, broke the news of his mother's accident but didn't give his son a hug. Harry adds that he and William both begged their father not to marry his long-term paramour Camilla Parker Bowles, worried she would become a wicked stepmother. Harry also is tormented by his status as royal spare behind William, who is heir to the British throne. Harry recounts a long-standing sibling rivalry that worsened after Harry began a relationship with American actress Meghan Markle, whom he married in 2018. China is seeking to minimize the possibility of a major new COVID-19 outbreak during this month's Lunar New Year travel rush following the end of most pandemic containment measures. The Transportation Ministry on Friday called on travelers to reduce trips and gatherings, particularly if they involve elderly people, pregnant women, small children, and those with underlying conditions. People using public transport are also urged to wear masks and pay special attention to their health and personal hygiene, Vice Minister Zhu Zhenguang told reporters at a briefing. The call stopped short of asking citizens to stay home entirely, as the government had since the pandemic began, although some local governments have urged migrant workers not to return home. Zhu said authorities expect more than 2 billion trips to be made during the week-long festival season, the most important time for visiting family and friends in the traditional Chinese calendar. That is nearly double the number of last year and 70.3% over the same period in 2019 before the pandemic hit, Zhu said. Demand for family visits and tourism has accumulated over the past 3 years of the pandemic to be met all at once, Zhu said. India will host a virtual summit of over 120 developing countries next week to share their economic woes in deliberations during its G20 presidency this year, a top foreign ministry official said Friday. The summit on January 12 and 13 will take up key issues such as the worldwide impact of the COVID-19 pandemic, the ongoing conflict in Ukraine, decreasing access and affordability of food, fertilizer and fuel, and mounting debt and inflationary pressures taking a toll on developing countries' economies, said Vinay Kwatra, the top bureaucrat of India's foreign ministry. India endeavours, he said, to provide a common platform to deliberate on the concerns, interests and priorities of developing countries and exchange ideas and solutions to various problems. India will work to ensure that the valuable inputs generated from partner countries receive due cognizance globally, he said. Steering the Group of 20 Leading Rich and Developing Nations Summit in 2023, India is expected to use the opportunity to gain prominence in global decision-making. Japan and the United States will hold security talks between their foreign and defense ministers in Washington the day before Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida lands in the US capital next week, wrapping up his tour of the Group of 7 nations as Tokyo expands its military and deepens its alliance with America amid China's growing influence. Kishida will embark Monday on a 5-nation trip to France, Italy, Britain and Canada ahead of his January 13 summit with US President Joe Biden. The two leaders last met during a Group of 20 meeting in Bali, Indonesia, but Kishida's Washington visit will be his first as Prime Minister. While there has been speculation about a visit to Ukraine, Kishida said Friday he told President Vladimir Zelensky he is considering his invitation to Kiev if various circumstances permit, but nothing had been decided at the moment. Defense Minister Yasukazu Hamada and Foreign Minister Yoshimasa Hayashi will fly to Washington to join their American counterparts Lloyd Austin and Antony Blinken for their 2+2 security talks Wednesday, just before their leaders' summit at the White House, Japanese officials said Friday. A 10-year-old Australian boy remained in a coma Friday following a collision earlier this week between two helicopters that killed 4 people, including the boy's mother. Another boy, aged 9, who was hospitalized in critical condition after the crash, awoke Thursday after suffering brain trauma, according to health authorities. The 9-year-old boy's mother remained hospitalized in a stable condition. Another 3 people who were injured in the collision were discharged Thursday from hospitals, according to Queensland Health. Police said one helicopter was taking off and the other landing when they collided Monday afternoon near the Sea World theme park on Queensland State's Gold Coast. A pilot, 2 British visitors and the 10-year-old boy's mother, Vanessa Tedros, were killed when the helicopter they were aboard plunged to the ground after its rotor blades were sheared off. Those most seriously injured were aboard that helicopter. Germany aims to supply around 40 modern armored personnel carriers to Ukraine in this year's first quarter, the government said Friday. Officials gave more details of the plan, which marks another notable shift forward in Germany's weapons deliveries to Ukraine, after Germany announced its intention to send the modern APCs following a phone call between Chancellor Olaf Scholz and US President Joe Biden on Thursday. These 40 vehicles should be ready in the first quarter already so that they can be handed over to Ukraine, Scholz's spokesman Stefan Hebestreit told reporters in Berlin. Germany plans to train Ukrainian forces to use the vehicles, and Hebestreit said experts expect that process to take around 8 weeks. Germany has already given significant military aid, including howitzers, Gepard self-propelled anti-aircraft guns, and an IRIS-T surface-to-air missile system, with 3 more of those set to follow this year. An uneasy calm in Kiev on Friday was broken by air raid sirens that also blared out across the rest of Ukraine despite a Russian ceasefire declaration for the Orthodox Church Christmas that Ukrainian officials scorned. No explosions were heard in the Ukrainian capital, but any fighting elsewhere in the country could take hours to become public, with no degree of certainty whether the truce was holding or not. Hours after it was due to have started, residents of Kiev ventured out in a light dusting of snow to buy gifts, cakes and groceries for their Christmas Eve family celebrations. Russian President Vladimir Putin on Thursday ordered for his forces in Ukraine to observe a unilateral 36-hour ceasefire. Kiev officials dismissed the move as a ploy but didn't clarify whether Ukrainian troops would follow suit. Moscow also didn't say whether its forces would retaliate if Ukraine kept fighting, but the Moscow-appointed head of the Donetsk region, Denis Pushilin, said they would. The Russian declared truce in the nearly 11-month war began at noon Friday and was to continue through midnight Saturday, Moscow time. A doctor says the death toll in a pair of suicide car bombings in Somalia early Wednesday has risen to at least 35, including 9 members of the same family, in one of the worst attacks by Al-Shabaab extremists in retaliation for a government offensive described as total war. Dr. Yahya Abdi, who works at the single overwhelmed hospital in Mahas district, told the Associated Press that more than 80 people were wounded, with 30 of them airlifted to the capital, Mogadishu. Some of the dead were found in the rubble of houses on Thursday, he said. Police have said the attackers targeted a military facility in the Hiran region, which is at the heart of the government's offensive against Al-Shabaab. The attack occurred after the dawn prayer. Al-Shabaab claimed responsibility for the attack, which is the deadliest since a bombing last October at a busy junction in Mogadishu killed at least 120 people. A building under construction collapsed in Iraq's northern city of Mosul, killing 3 people and injuring 9 others, police said Friday. The Thursday afternoon collapse occurred in a western neighborhood of Mosul when workers were casting the roof of the building with cement. The police command in Nineveh province said the building is owned by the city's department in charge of the sewage system. It said the 9 injured were taken to a hospital in the city. Large parts of Mosul were destroyed in 2017 during a months-long battle against the Islamic State group that ended with Iraqi forces' victory over IS in the city. The battle ended the extremist caliphate in Iraq in July that year. IS captured Mosul, Iraq's second largest city, in June 2014 and held it until their defeat 3 years later. Now it's time for business news. Now let's have a look on today's sports stories. Iga Swiatek, the favorite for this month's Australian Open, was in tears after losing at the United Cup on Friday. The US and French Open champion sobbed courtside after being thrashed 6-2, 6-2 by American Jessica Pegula in the mixed teams tournament semi-finals in Sydney. I was just sad, but it is not the first time I cried after a lost match. Nothing special. World number 1, Swiatek said. The victory by Pegula helped the US seize a 2-0 lead against Poland, while Italy also claimed both opening rubbers against Greece. The remaining singles will be played on Saturday, with a mixed doubles to be held if required. Emma Raducanu blamed slippery indoor courts for an ankle injury which forced her to withdraw from the ASB Bank Tennis Classic on Thursday, less than 2 weeks before the start of the Australian Open. The 2021 US Open champion was in tears after retiring in the third set of her second-round match against Slovakian qualifier Viktoria Kosmova. The British player slipped late in the second set and then summoned the trainer who heavily strapped her left ankle during a lengthy injury break. The 20-year-old Raducanu attempted to continue and was serving in the first game of the third set when she tearfully indicated she could not play on. Matches at the Auckland WTA Tour event were moved indoors Thursday for the second straight day because of heavy rain. Buffalo Bills safety Damar Hamlin is breathing on his own and able to talk after having his breathing tube removed, his agent said Friday, the latest step in his remarkable recovery in the 4 days since going into cardiac arrest and being resuscitated on the field during a game against the Cincinnati Bengals. Hamlin even joined the Bills team meeting on Friday morning via video conference. He used mostly hand gestures, some staple things that the players know him for. Bills coach Sean McDermott said and told them with his voice at the end, "Love you, boys." McDermott said he kept it a secret from the team before announcing he had a treat in the store for them, putting Hamlin on the big screen in the meeting room. "He is just an infectious young man with an infectious personality," McDermott said. The 24-year-old Hamlin was listed Thursday in critical condition in the intensive care unit of the University of Cincinnati Medical Center, and there was no update as of Friday, before the breathing tube was removed. Hamlin could communicate by writing and grip people's hands. Let's have a look on today's weather forecast. That's all in today's news. Keep watching Millennium News 24 for latest updates. Millennium TV USA and Millennium News 24 network is transmitted and available to be watched free for all LED TVs such as Sony, Samsung, LG, Roku TV, Amazon TV and Apple TV. And also in all European countries and Australia available with Sky Network, Worldwide Jago TV, Radiant IPTV, Worldwide Jago BT Network and Horizon Satellite globally. Stay connected with us for all types of informative and entertainment program. Thank you.